Chapter 1. When I was small. My name is William. I am 72 years old now. I have lived many years, but when I sit alone at night, I do not remember all of them. I only remember some special days. These are the best days of my life. Tonight, I want to tell you about them. I want to open my heart and share with you the moments that made me who I am. I know some of you are young. You may think life is long and full of chances. You may think nothing can be lost. But believe me, life moves fast. When you are young, you do not notice it. You feel you have time. But when you reach my age, you look back and you see that time was the most precious gift. So listen to me carefully. If you are young, take these memories as lessons. If you are old like me, I know you will feel them in your own heart. You will remember your own parents, your own love, and your own golden days. I still remember my father. I was just 5 years old when he taught me how to walk on the road. He held my hand tight. He said, "Do not be afraid." I am here. I can still feel the warmth of his hand in mine. I fell many times. I cried, but he never let me stay down. He always lifted me. He said, "My son, you will fall again and again. But remember, each time you fall, you must rise stronger." Those words are still inside me after all these years. My mother was the heart of our home. She had no gold, no diamonds, no rich clothes, but she had love in her hands. She cooked with care. She sang softly to me before sleep. She never complained about her pain. Once, I was sick with fever. She stayed awake all night, putting a wet cloth on my head. She whispered, "Don't worry. You will be fine." That night I understood what true love means. A mother's love is the first and strongest love in life. I remember one day my father bought me a small book. It was old and thin, but for me it was a treasure. He said, "Read, my son. A book can give you a world even if you own nothing." That day I learned that knowledge is power. I kept that book like gold. I read the same page again and again. My friends laughed at me, but I did not care. I felt rich with that book in my hands. My childhood was not full of money. We had little, but we had each other. I used to play with friends in the street. We had no toys. We played with sticks, stones, and our laughter. We ran until sunset, then came home hungry. My mother gave me bread, and it tasted sweeter than any food I have eaten later in my life. That was the beauty of those days. From those simple times, I learned that joy is not in things, but in moments. I also remember my father's lessons. He was strict, but kind. He used to say, "Always respect people. Money can make you big, but respect makes you human." I never forgot those words. Once, I saw him give food to a poor man, even when we had very little. I asked him, "Father, why did you give our food away?" He smiled and said, "Because tomorrow we can still eat something, but tonight that man had nothing." That day I learned the power of kindness. My mother had her own lessons. She used to say, "Never hurt anyone with your words." Once I shouted at a friend in anger. When I came home, she looked at me and said, "Do not let anger control you." A bad word can cut deeper than a knife. I felt ashamed. I went back and said sorry to my friend. From her, I learned that peace starts with gentle words. One evening, I was playing with my father. I fell and broke my toy cart. I cried loudly. My father picked me up and said, "Son, carts break, kites tear, toys are lost. But love, respect, and memories never break." I did not understand it then. But now, at 72, I see that he was right. Things break, but love stays. Another memory I carry is from my school days. I was about 10 years old. My teacher punished me because I did not do my homework. I was angry and said I would never go back. My father sat me down and said, "Do not run from hard work. If you quit once, you will quit again." That day I went back to school with tears, but I did my homework. That became one of the best lessons of my life. Never quit. When I was 12, I wanted new shoes. We could not afford them. I cried to my mother. She looked at me and said, "Son, walk with pride even if your feet are bare." Pride comes from character, not from shoes. I did not understand it then. But later in life, I saw rich men with no respect, and I remembered my mother's words. At 15, I lost a race at school. I came home angry. My father said, "Winning is sweet, but losing teaches you more. Do not be afraid of losing. Be afraid of not trying." These words stayed with me. Even today I can hear his voice. I tell you these things because they made me who I am. Childhood is the root of life. Parents are the first teachers. The best days of my life were not in riches or fame. They were in the small moments: a father's hand, a mother's smile, a simple meal, a broken kite, a hard lesson. If you are young, remember this. Take care of your parents. Listen to them. Learn from them. If you are old, I know you will feel your own memories rising inside you. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I can still see myself as a small boy. I see my father walking with me, my mother smiling at me. I feel safe again. I feel loved again. And I whisper to myself, yes, these were the best days of my life. Chapter 2, My Golden Days. After sharing the first part of my childhood, I want to take you forward. Life did not stop at 5 or 10. The years between 10 and 15 were special in their own way. I call them my golden days. They were not golden because of money. They were golden because of love, friendship, dreams, and the lessons that stayed with me for life. When I was around 10, I started school seriously. I was nervous, but I was also full of hope. My father said, "William, school is not just about books. It is about discipline. Learn to respect time." At first, I did not understand, but slowly I realized that if you give value to time, time will give value to you. That was my first big lesson in those years. I remember once I failed in a test. I came home crying. I thought my father would be angry. But he looked at me and said, "Failure is not shame. Shame is when you stop trying." His words gave me strength. I picked up the book again. That moment taught me to never give up, no matter how many times I fall. My mother was always there to comfort me. One evening I told her, "Mother, why are we not rich like others?" She smiled and said, "Son, richness is not in money. Richness is in your heart. If you can smile even on hard days, you are the richest man alive." I did not fully understand then, but later in life, I saw the truth. I saw people with big houses and no peace, and I saw poor families laughing together. That was when my mother's words returned to me. At 11, I had close friends. We played every day after school. We did not have toys, so we created our own games. Once, I came home late. My father asked, "Where were you?" I said, "With friends." He said softly, "Choose friends who bring out the best in you." I carried that advice for life. Good friends are not the ones who make you laugh for a moment. Good friends are the ones who help you grow. I also learned how important honesty is. One day I lied to my mother about losing a coin. She found out. She did not scold me. She only said, "Son, lies may save you today, but they will destroy your tomorrow." Her gentle voice broke me more than punishment could. From that day, I decided to keep truth close, even when it hurt. At 12, I had a small dream. I wanted to be a teacher. I used to stand in front of a wall and pretend to teach my friends. My father laughed, but also encouraged me. He said, "Never be afraid of your dreams, no matter how small they look." That encouragement stayed in my blood. I learned that even the smallest dream is a seed that can grow into a tree. When I turned 13, life gave me another lesson. I joined a school race. I ran fast, but I did not win. I came second. I was upset. My teacher put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Second place is not failure. It means you are one step closer to first." That day I learned to respect every effort, not just victory. My mother also showed me how sacrifice works. One winter, I needed new clothes for school. We had no money. She sold her old bangles quietly. She bought me the clothes and smiled as if nothing happened. I later found out and cried. I asked her why she did it. She said, "Because your future is more important than my jewelry." That sacrifice taught me that love always gives without expecting anything back. At 14, I saw my father help a stranger. He gave him some money and food. I asked, "Why do you help people we don't know?" He replied, "Because one day you may need help too." Give kindness today, and tomorrow kindness will come back to you. That was another golden lesson of my life. These years also taught me responsibility. Once my father asked me to take care of our small garden for a week. I was careless. The plants dried. He did not shout. He only said, "If you cannot care for small things, you will fail in big things." I felt guilty. From then on, I never ignored responsibility. I still remember a rainy day when I slipped on the road and hurt my knee. My friends laughed. I felt embarrassed. But an old man walking by helped me up and said, "Son, do not laugh at pain, yours or anyone else's. Respect pain, because it teaches you strength." That stranger's words stayed in my mind forever. The best part of these golden days was family evenings. We sat together, ate simple food, and talked. My father told stories, my mother listened, and I felt safe. Now, at 72, I realize those evenings were more precious than gold. Life has taught me that peace is not outside. It is inside your home, inside your family. Looking back, those years between 10 and 15 gave me many lessons. Respect time, Do not quit. Stay honest. Keep good friends. Value sacrifices. Help others. Carry responsibility. Respect pain. Love your family. These were the golden lessons of my golden days. Now I am old. But when I close my eyes, I see that boy again, running in the streets, laughing with friends, holding his mother's hand, listening to his father's advice. I whisper to myself, yes, these were my golden days. Chapter 3. The first look after my golden days of childhood and teenage years, life slowly changed. I grew older, and my heart started to feel new things. Childhood was full of games and lessons, but youth brought feelings that I had never known before. I was 27 when it happened. That age when a man wants to build his future, but also wants someone to walk beside him. I still remember the first time I saw her. She was standing across the street, talking to her friend. Her smile was soft, her eyes bright. My heart started beating fast. I told myself, William, why is your heart running like this? I had never felt that way before. I looked away quickly, but the image of her face stayed inside me. That day became the start of something that changed my life. Days passed, but I could not forget her. I found excuses to walk that way again. Sometimes I saw her, sometimes I did not. But every time I saw her, my heart whispered, she is the one. I was nervous, but I wanted to talk. My mind said, what if she ignores you? My heart said, at least try. One day I gathered courage and said, hello. She looked at me and smiled. That small smile gave me more happiness than anything else. Slowly, we started talking. At first, only small words, then longer talks. We laughed at silly things. I told her about my family, my dreams. She told me about her struggles, her hopes. I remember her saying once, life is not easy, but I want someone who will stand with me. I looked at her and said softly, maybe I can be that someone. She did not reply, but she smiled again, and that smile was enough. Love grew slowly. I wrote letters to her at night. My hands shook while writing. I waited days for her reply. When her letter came, I read it again and again until I knew every word by heart. Sometimes we met in the park. Sometimes we just walked quietly. One evening, I told her, I don't know why, but my life feels brighter when you are near. She looked down and whispered, I feel the same. My heart was full, but love was not easy. Her family was not happy. They wanted someone richer for her. They said, he is not good enough. When she told me, I felt broken. I sat alone and thought, why is love always tested? But I looked at her face, and I knew I could not give up. I told her, I will prove myself. I will work hard. I will not let you go. She held my hand and said, then I will wait for you. Those words gave me strength. I started working more. I took small jobs. Sometimes I carried heavy bags for hours. Sometimes I worked in the sun until my body burned. At night, I came home tired, but I wrote her another letter. I wanted to show her that I was serious. My friends laughed at me, but I did not care. Love made me strong. There was one night I will never forget. It was winter. I stood outside her house just to see her shadow in the window. My hands were freezing, but my heart was warm. I whispered to myself, if I can stand in this cold for her, I can stand against the world. That night taught me what true love means. True love gives pain, but that pain feels sweet. Sometimes she cried and said, maybe my family will never agree. I wiped her tears and said, trust me. We will make it. She looked at me with hope. That hope became my fuel. Each time I felt weak, I remembered her eyes. They pushed me forward. We met secretly many times. We dreamed of a home together. She said once, I don't want gold or diamonds. I just want peace, I told her. Then I will give you peace, even if I have nothing else. She smiled and whispered, that is all I ever wanted. Looking back now, at 72, I can say this. The first look changed everything. It was not just love. It was the beginning of my life's best chapter. I learned that when love is real, it makes you fight harder, work harder, and believe stronger. That smile of hers gave me the courage to face the world. These were the days when my heart was young, my spirit was strong, and my dreams were alive. I was no longer just a boy living in his parents' world. I was a man ready to build his own. And all of it started with one look, one smile, one moment that became the doorway to the best days of my life.
Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our channel, English Through Story.
Chapter 4. Fighting for Love. Love had entered my life, but it did not come with ease. After the first look, after the sweet letters, after the quiet walks, came the storm. Her family was not ready to accept me. They looked at me and said, I was not enough. I had no gold, no big house, no rich name. They wanted more for her, but she wanted me. That was the fight that began, and it became the hardest fight of my youth. I still remember the day she told me. Her eyes were full of tears. She whispered, William, my parents do not want this. They said you cannot give me a good life. My heart sank. I looked at her and said, do you believe them? She shook her head and replied, no. I believe you, but they are my family. I cannot fight them alone. That moment I made a promise inside myself. I will fight, not against her family, but against the doubts they had about me. I started working more. I did not have a big job. I took what I could find. Some days I carried heavy sacks for hours. My hands burned, my back hurt, but every coin I earned was like a brick in the wall I was building to protect our love. At night, I came home tired, but I still wrote her letters. In those letters I told her, one day we will have our own home. One day you will not cry again. Trust me, we will get there. There were nights when I felt weak. I asked myself, why is life so hard? Why can't love be simple? But then I remembered her smile, and I found new strength. I said to myself, if I give up, I will lose her. If I fight, I might win her. And love is worth the fight. She was strong too. She never left me. Sometimes she would meet me secretly and say, I am scared, William. What if they never agree? I held her hand and told her, even if the whole world stands against us, I will not let go of you. She cried and said, promise me you will never leave. I looked into her eyes and said, "I will never leave, not in this life, not in the next." Those words were not just words, they were my truth. The fight was not only with her family, it was also with myself. I had to fight my fear, my tired body, my doubts. There were days I wanted to stop, but I remembered my father's voice from childhood. Never quit. I carried that voice inside me and kept going. One evening, her brother came to me. He looked at me with anger and said, "Stay away from her. You cannot give her what she deserves." I looked at him and said calmly, "I may not have much today, but I have love, and I have strength. I will prove myself. Time will show who I am." He turned away, but my heart was burning. Those years were full of tests. Every day was a battle, but battles also teach lessons. I learned that love is not only about soft smiles and sweet words. Love is also about standing tall in storms. It is about proving yourself, not with promises, but with actions. There was a night when I cried alone. I prayed and said, "God, give me the strength to protect this love." The next morning, I woke up stronger. I realized that pain was shaping me, turning me into a man who could carry responsibility. She gave me hope. She wrote in one of her letters, "Even if we are poor, even if we have nothing, I will be happy with you." When I read those words, I felt like the richest man in the world. Her faith in me was the fuel that kept me alive. Slowly, her family began to see my effort. They saw me working day and night. They saw I was not giving up. They saw her standing by me, even when they said no. Love began to change hearts. Walls began to break. It was not fast, but it was real. Looking back now at 72, I can say that fighting for love was one of the hardest and best parts of my life. It taught me that nothing great comes without struggle. It taught me that true love is not just found. It is built, tested, and proven. I tell you this because maybe you are fighting for something now. Maybe you feel tired. Maybe people tell you it is impossible. Remember this: if your heart is true, if your love is pure, then fight. Do not run away. The pain will shape you, and the struggle will make the victory sweeter. Those days of fighting for love were not easy, but they were worth every tear, every drop of sweat, every sleepless night. They were the days that made me a man. They were the days that showed me the real meaning of love. And in the end, they became part of the best days of my life. Chapter 5: The Wedding Day. After years of waiting, after all the sleepless nights and long days of struggle, the day finally came. The day I had dreamed of since the first time I saw her. The day when love won over fear and hope stood taller than doubt. It was my wedding day, and it became the happiest day of my youth. Her family had tested me. They had doubted me. They had said no many times. But my work, my patience, and my faith in love changed their hearts slowly. They saw that I would not leave her. They saw that she would not give up on me. And in the end, they accepted us. When I heard those words, "Yes, you may marry," I felt my knees grow weak. Tears filled my eyes. I whispered to myself, "Finally, we did it." I remember walking towards her on that day. She was simple, not wearing gold, not covered in diamonds, but she was the most beautiful sight of my life. My father stood proudly beside me. My mother's eyes were full of tears. My heart was beating so fast I thought the whole room could hear it. She looked at me and smiled, and that smile was all I needed. When we stood together, I took her hand in mine. Her hand was soft, but it held strength. I whispered, "Are you ready?" She looked into my eyes and said, "I have been ready for years." Those words touched my soul. I felt like the richest man alive. The ceremony was not big. There were no lights, no large crowds, no expensive gifts. But there was love, pure, strong, and deep. I looked at her and thought, this is the beginning of my new life. This is the woman who will walk with me through every storm. After we said our vows, I remember my father putting his hand on my shoulder. He said, "Take care of her. A wife is not only a partner, she is a trust." I nodded and said softly, "I promise." My mother hugged me and whispered, "Now you are not only a son, you are a husband. Be kind, be patient, be strong." Those words became a guide for my married life. When the ceremony ended, I held her hand tightly. We walked out together, and for the first time, I felt complete. We had nothing much, no big house, no gold, no car, but we had each other, and that was enough. That night we sat together and looked at each other in silence. She said, "William, we did it. After all the pain, after all the waiting, we are finally together." I smiled and said, "Yes, and I will never let you go again." She leaned her head on my shoulder, and I felt peace in my heart. I tell you today, even after 72 years of life, that moment is still alive inside me. The wedding was not about wealth. It was about two hearts becoming one. It was about love winning after struggle. It was about hope turning into reality. If you are young and listening to me, remember this. Do not run after a perfect wedding full of money and gold. Run after true love, and when you find it, hold it with both hands. Because that love will stay when everything else fades. The wedding day was not just a celebration. It was the reward for every tear, every letter, every night of waiting. It was proof that when you fight for something pure, you can win. Now, when I close my eyes, I can still see her face from that day. I can still hear her voice saying, "I have been ready for years." And I whisper back to myself, "So was I." That was not only the happiest day of my youth, it was one of the best days of my entire life.
Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our channel, English Through Story.
Chapter 6. The Sweet Home. After the wedding day, life entered a new chapter. For years, I had dreamed of holding her hand without fear, of calling her mine in front of the world. And now it was real. I was no longer just a son or a lover. I was a husband. She was my wife, and together we began to build our small but sweet home. We had almost nothing. A few clothes, a few dishes, a small bed. But to us, it felt like treasure. She laughed and said, "This is ours. Even if the world calls it little, for me it is everything." I held her hand and said, "As long as you are here, I feel rich." Her eyes shined, and I knew we would find happiness even in the smallest things. Those early days of marriage were full of sweet moments. I remember the first morning when she made tea. She placed it in front of me and smiled shyly. I took a sip and said, "It tastes better than anything I ever had." She laughed and said, "You are only saying this because I made it." I shook my head and whispered, "No, I mean it." She looked at me and smiled again, and that smile made the whole day bright. We did everything together. We went to the market and argued about prices, then laughed about it on the way back. We cooked together, sometimes burning the food, but enjoying it anyway. Once the bread got ruined, and she looked worried. I held her and said, "Even if we eat only this, I am happy as long as it is with you." She hugged me and said softly, "Then I will never let you go hungry." Evenings were full of laughter. Sometimes we sang old songs. Sometimes we just talked about dreams. She told me she wanted a peaceful life, nothing big, nothing loud. I told her, "Then that is what we will build. A life where we are safe, where we are together, where love is our roof." There were times when the roof did leak. One rainy night, water dripped through the ceiling. We ran around placing bowls and buckets. She laughed while water touched her hair. I said, "This is not a house, it's a river." She laughed louder and replied, "Then we will swim together." That night, even with water on the floor, we felt joy. Because joy is not in the walls, it is in the hearts. I remember one special evening. She sat beside me and said, "William, do you think I made the right choice? Leaving behind what my family wanted?" I held her hand tightly and said, "The right choice is not what makes life easy. The right choice is what makes life true. And you chose truth. You chose love." Tears filled her eyes and she whispered, "Then I am the luckiest woman alive." I smiled and said, "No, I am the lucky one." We lived simply, but every day felt like a gift. I worked hard outside and she made our home warm inside. When I came back tired, she smiled, and my tiredness vanished. She often said, "We don't have much, but we have peace." And I answered, "Peace is worth more than gold." Looking back now, I realize those days were not about what we had. They were about what we shared. We shared food, laughter, tears, and dreams. That was our wealth. That was our sweet home. If you are young and listening, remember this. Happiness does not need big houses or shining jewels. Happiness comes when two people love each other enough to laugh in storms and smile in hunger. If you are old, you know this truth already. You know that the sweetest home is built not by money, but by love. Those first years of marriage were pure and innocent. They were the days when I felt stronger, not because I had much, but because I had her. Together we built a life, brick by brick, moment by moment, and those moments became part of the best days of my life. Like, subscribe, and share. Click the hype button to hype the video. Give super thanks to support us. Chapter 7. Hard Roads. Together. After the sweet days of our early marriage, life slowly showed us its harder side. At first, everything felt like a dream. We laughed at little things and enjoyed the small joys. But soon, reality came knocking. We had bills to pay, and our income was not enough. The same house that gave us laughter now tested us with struggles. I still remember the first evening when we had almost no food at home. I looked at the table and felt pain in my heart. She noticed my face and said, "Don't worry, William. Even if it is only bread and water, we will share it with love." I looked at her and whispered, "I am sorry you have to go through this." She touched my hand and replied, "As long as I have you, I have enough." Her words broke me and healed me at the same time. There were nights when we argued. Stress was heavy. I came home tired, and she was tired too. Sometimes small things became big. Once she cried and said, "Why is life so hard for us?" I held her close and said, "Because life wants to test if our love is real, and I believe it is." She looked into my eyes and said softly, "Then let us not lose." That moment I realized marriage is not about avoiding fights. It is about holding on even after them. Money problems made us sacrifice many dreams. I wanted to buy her something nice, but I could not. She wanted new clothes, but she never asked. Instead, she smiled and said, "One day, we will have enough. Until then, let us enjoy what we do have." Her strength kept me strong. She showed me that patience is more powerful than wealth. One winter, the roof leaked again, but this time it was worse. We placed buckets everywhere, but water still dripped. I grew angry and shouted, "Why can't we have a better life?" She stayed calm and said, "Because this is our journey. We will fix it together." Her calmness felt like a hand pulling me out of darkness. She was my light even in those storms. There was also a day when I lost my job. I walked home with shame in my heart. I thought she would be disappointed. Instead, she hugged me and said, "It is only a job. We will find another. What matters is that we still have each other." Tears filled my eyes. I whispered, "How are you so strong?" She smiled and said, "Because if I fall, you will hold me. And if you fall, I will hold you." That was the meaning of our life together. Looking back now, I see that those hard roads were painful, but they gave us lessons that no easy day could ever give. We learned to fight together. We learned to cry together. We learned that true love is not about never suffering. It is about never letting go, even when suffering comes. If you are listening to me now, remember this. Life will test you. It will shake you. But if you stand side by side, you will survive. Do not run away from hard roads. Walk them together, because at the end of those roads, you will find peace. Those years of struggle were heavy, but they became part of the best days of my life. Not because they were easy, but because they proved that love is strongest when life is hardest. Like, subscribe and share. Click the hype button to hype the video. Give super thanks to support us. Chapter 8. The Last Treasure. As the years passed, life kept moving forward. The struggles came, but so did the victories. We had walked together through sweet times and bitter times. We had laughed, we had cried, we had fought, and we had forgiven. Every moment became a piece of our story. Now, at 72, I sit here with memories as my only company, and I can tell you with honesty, those memories are my last treasure. My wife stood by me for many years. Together we built a life that may not have looked big from outside, but from inside it was full of meaning. We never had luxury, but we had love, and that love made us rich. I can still hear her voice when she said, "William, we will get through this." I can still feel her hand in mine when we had nothing but each other. Those little moments became bigger than anything else. One day, many years later, she became sick. I sat by her bed and held her hand. She whispered, "William, you have given me everything. I never needed gold. I only needed you." Tears rolled down my face. I said, "No, it was you who gave me everything. You gave me strength. You gave me peace." She smiled weakly and said, "Then promise me you will not be alone after me. Promise me you will live with these memories, not with pain." I kissed her hand and whispered, "I promise." When she left this world, I felt empty. The house felt silent. The days felt heavy. I often sat alone and thought, how will I go on without her? But then I remembered her words. She had asked me to live, not to die with sorrow. So I chose to carry her inside me. I chose to keep our love alive through memory. Sometimes I close my eyes and go back to the days of childhood. I see my father's strong hands lifting me up. I see my mother's gentle eyes full of love. Sometimes I go back to my youth. I see that first look, that first smile, the letters, the promises. Sometimes I see our wedding day, her face shining with joy. And sometimes I see our struggles, when we had nothing but still held on. Each memory is a jewel. Each memory is a treasure. Now I sit in silence, but I am not poor. I am rich with these treasures. I am rich with love that never died. People often ask me, "William, what was the best part of your life?" I smile and say, "The best part was not one day or one moment. The best part was every day I loved and was loved. That is the truth of my 72 years. If you are young, I want you to hear this. Do not run after things that shine today but fade tomorrow. Run after love, after respect, after truth. These will stay with you when everything else is gone. If you are old, I know you are smiling now, because you too are holding your own treasures inside. Maybe it is the smile of your wife, the laughter of your children, the voice of your parents. These are the real treasures of life. I have lived long enough to understand one last lesson. Life does not give us endless days, but it gives us enough moments to make life beautiful if we choose to. Do not waste them in anger. Do not waste them in greed. Fill them with love, with kindness, with forgiveness. Because one day, when you sit like me, your memories will be all you have, and you will want them to shine, not burn. Tonight, as I tell you my story, I feel peace. My father is gone, my mother is gone, my wife is gone, but none of them are truly lost. They live inside me. They walk with me in silence. They smile with me in dreams. They are my last treasure, and they will stay with me until my last breath. These were the best days of my life, and I share them with you so you may live your own best days with love, with patience, and with courage.
Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe channel, Learn English Through Story. See you next video. Take care, everyone. The end.